One of the most important facets of this empire was that it provided the stage for a scientific development previously unmatched in history. At a time when Europe was living through the Dark Ages, the Islamic world created the greatest legacy of scientific knowledge seen in history to that date. The sciences of medicine, mathematics, geometry, astronomy, and even sociology were developed systematically for the first time. Some commentators try to link this Islamic scientific development to the influence of the ancient Greeks. But the real source of Islamic science was the experimentation and observations of Muslim scientists. In his book, The Middle East, Professor Bernard Lewis, an expert in Middle Eastern history, explains it like this. The achievement of medieval Islamic science is not limited to the preservation of Greek learning, nor to the incorporation in the corpus of elements from the more ancient and more distant East. This heritage which medieval Islamic scientists handed on to the modern world was immensely enriched by their own efforts and contributions. Greek science, on the whole, rather tended to be theoretical. Medieval Middle Eastern science was much more practical, and in such fields as medicine, chemistry, astronomy, and agronomy, the classical heritage was clarified and supplemented by the experiments and observations of the medieval Middle East. The secret was the scientific and mental discipline taught by the Qur'an to Muslim scientists. The lines written by a Muslim scientist of that period in his private diary strikingly demonstrate how much alive the Qur'an-based concept of science was. Then for a year and a half, I devoted myself to study. I resumed the study of logic and all parts of philosophy. During this time, I never slept the whole night through and did nothing but study all day long. Whenever I was puzzled by a problem, I would go to the mosque, pray, and beg the Creator of all to reveal me that which was hidden from me and make it easy for me that which was difficult. Then at night, I would return home, put a lamp in front of me, and set to work reading and writing. I went on like this until I was firmly grounded in all sciences and mastered them as far as humanly possible. Andalusia, where most Muslim scientists were born and raised, became a major center of innovation and development, especially in medicine. Muslim physicians were trained in such varied fields as pharmacology, surgery, ophthalmology, gynecology, physiology, bacteriology, and hygiene, and they made important discoveries which laid the foundations of modern science. Here are some of them. The advanced scientific culture of the Islamic world paved the way for the Western Renaissance. Muslim scientists acted in the knowledge that their investigation of God's creation was a path through which they could get to know Him. With the transfer of this mentality to the Western world, the advance of the West began. Medieval Europe was ruled by the dogmatic regime of the Catholic Church. The Church opposed freedom of thought and pressured scientists. People could be punished by the Inquisition simply for holding different beliefs or ideas. Their books were burned, and they themselves were executed. The pressure on research in the Middle Ages is often referred to in history books, but some interpret the situation wrongly and claim that the scientists who clashed with the Church were against religion. The truth is the exact opposite. The scientists who opposed the bigotry of the Church were religious believers. They were not against religion, but against Church dogma. For example, the famous astronomer Galileo, whom the Church wanted to punish because he stated that the world rotated, said, "I render infinite thanks to God for being so kind as to make me alone the first observer of marvels kept hidden in obscurity for all previous centuries." The other scientists who established modern science were all religious. Kepler, regarded as the founder of modern astronomy, told those who asked him why he busied himself with science, "I had the intention of becoming a theologian, but now I see how God is, by my endeavors, also glorified in astronomy, for heavens declare the glory of God." As for Newton, one of the greatest scientists in history, he explained the principle underlying his zeal for scientific endeavor by saying, "He, God, is eternal and infinite, omnipotent and omniscient. That is, His duration reaches from eternity to eternity, His presence from infinity to infinity. He governs all things and knows all things that are or can be done. We know Him only by His most wise and excellent contrivances of things. We reverence and adore Him as His servants." The great genius Pascal, the father of modern mathematics, said that, "But by faith we know His, God's existence. In glory we shall know His nature." Von Helmont, one of the leading figures of modern chemistry and the inventor of the thermometer, declared that science was a part of faith. Georges Cuvier, the founder of modern paleontology, regarded fossils as surviving proofs of the creation and taught that living species had been created by God. Carl Linnaeus, who first systematized scientific classification, believed in the creation and stated that the natural order was a significant proof of God's existence. Gregor Mendel, the founder of genetics and also a monk, believed in creation and opposed the evolutionary theories of his time, such as Darwinism and Lamarckism. Louis Pasteur, the greatest name in the history of microbiology, proved that life could not be created in inert matter and taught that life was a miracle of God. The famous German physicist Max Planck said that the creator of the universe was God and stressed that faith was a necessary quality of scientists. Albert Einstein, regarded as the most important scientist of the 20th century, believed that science could not be godless and said, "Science without religion is lame." A large number of other scientists who guided scientific history were religious people who believed in God. These scientists all believed in God and served science with the intention of discovering the universe which He had created. As God decreed in the Qur'an, they thought about the creation of the heavens and the earth and investigated in the awareness of God. The birth of science and its development were the result of this awareness. During the 19th century, however, this awareness was replaced by a fraud called materialism. The 19th century was a period which witnessed the greatest errors in human history. These errors began with the imposition of European thought of materialist philosophy and ancient Greek teaching. The greatest error of this period was Darwin's theory of evolution. Before the birth of Darwinism, biology was accepted as a branch of science which provided evidence of the existence of God. In his book Natural Theology, the famous biologist William Paley maintained that, to the extent that every clock proves the existence of a clockmaker, natural designs prove the existence of God. However, Darwin rejected this truth in his theory of evolution. By distorting the truth to fit materialist philosophy, he claimed that all living things were the result of coincidences. In this way, he created an artificial separation between religion and science. In their book, The Messianic Legacy, English researchers Michael Bagent, Richard Ley, and Henry Lincoln have this to say on the subject. For Isaac Newton, a century and a half before Darwin, science was not separate from religion, but on the contrary, an aspect of religion, and ultimately subservient to it. But the science of Darwin's time